I want to welcome everyone to the City of Little Rock Board of Directors January 9th, 2024 meeting. I want to welcome those that are in attendance as well as those that are watching online. And also Happy New Year. On this 9th day of 2024, we are eternally blessed to be here, and we're grateful for that. Well, now, Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll.
Director Miller.
Here.
Director Richardson.
Here.
Director Peck.
Here.
Director Hines.
Present.
Director Lewis.
Here.
Director Wyrick.
Present.
Director Compuris. Director Phillips. Director Adcock.
Present.
Vice Mayor Webb.
Here.
Mayor Scott.
Here. Now we'll transition to City Director Virgil Miller to please give the invocation.
Thank you, Mayor. Will you all bow with me for a moment of silence as we open up our hearts and minds for this evening's prayer? It's my prayer that as we start this new year, we give thanks that we've been given a brand new opportunity to build on the many accomplishments of 2023, to recognize that everything that was accomplished came as a result of people working together to make our city stronger, safer, more welcoming, more beautiful, and indeed easier to navigate. That we continue to work together to make our city a place that people want to live, where families want to raise their children, where businesses want to locate, and where developers want to do business. A city where all residents in all neighborhoods feel city services and resources are available to them. A city where all residents in all neighborhoods feel their city listens to them and addresses their concerns. And finally, I pray peace, happiness, love, and success to all our city employees, our mayor, and my fellow board members. Amen.
Amen. May we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Members of the board, as you know, we have a consent agenda. I'm going to take personal privilege to extract resolution number 1 to start off. It'll still be a part of the consent agenda. I'm going to ask that Madam Clerk, if you would, approach the podium to read the resolution, as well as with Darren Williams, Ms. Siobhan, and Ms. Lori. If you all will approach the podium.
A resolution to rename in memory
Take your
of
time.
City Manager Bruce T. Moore. That portion of Arch Street that extends from 4th Street to Markham Street and past the Little Rock City Hall compound located at 500 West Markham as Bruce T. Moore Way and for other purposes.
The adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Before we entertain the motion from Director Adcock and the second I heard from both Directors Richardson and Hines, I'm going to ask Darren Williams to please share a word. But before we share a word, let's make sure the phone's off. Thank you.
To you, Honorable Mayor Scott, and Vice Mayor Webb, to honorable members of this fine body, I really recognize this on the consent agenda. There's nothing I can do to advance this other than just say thank you. On behalf of Bruce's son, Luke Moore, his family and close friends, we appreciate you for the expeditious way in which you're honoring Bruce. Such a well-deserved recognition, and the citizens of Little Rock cannot be more happy for your kind way in which you've done this. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now have a moment of silence for the life and the legacy of Bruce T. Moore. Amen. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it. Madam Clerk, if you would, please continue to read the consent agenda.
A resolution authorizes the city manager to enter into a public agency service agreement to provide fleet maintenance, repair, and fleet services for the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau vehicles and equipment, and for the purposes. A resolution to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Resolution number 15,844 of December 20th, 2022, to authorize the city manager to enter into a second contract amendment with ShotSpotter Incorporated, doing business as SST Incorporated, for a total amount not to exceed $149,500 plus applicable taxes and fees for the renewal of the wide area gunshot detection service for the Little Rock Police Department for a period of 1 additional year, and for the purposes. A resolution to amend Little Rock, Arkansas Resolution number 16,144 of November the 7th, 2023, to authorize the city manager to amend the contract with Jackson Brown Palisade Architects to reflect the corrected estimated contract amount of $448,500 for architectural design services to rebuild Fire Station number 9, located at 1324 North Shackelford Road, Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes. A resolution to make appointments to the Central Arkansas Library System Board of Trustees, and for the purposes. That concludes the consent agenda.
The consent agenda.
Second.
There's a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. We'll now go into citizens' communication. Ms. Kasia Pabier.
Good evening. My name is Kasia Pabian. I am a certified registered nurse anesthetist and am a native of Little Rock, Arkansas. I have recently purchased a property located at 3601 West Roosevelt in Little Rock. It is located right across from the Compassion Center. It was the retirement facility called the Magnolia Retirement Community. Since I've purchased it, we have turned it into a recovery facility for patients who have gone through rehab and need a place to transition as they get back on their feet. We've had multiple break-ins since we've purchased the property, and it appears that LRPD isn't aware that we've changed from the retirement facility to now a recovery facility. So I think the mentality is still there that it's the old type of business that it was. We've completely cleaned house and we have new residents in there. So I'm here tonight just to educate the board members and the city of Little Rock what we've done so far. We have the capacity to have over 200 residents in this facility, but we're meeting barriers with the multiple break-ins. And so our property is located right next door to the development of the homeless village that the city is planning to build. That property has been completely cleared, which has allowed access at the back of our facility for these thieves to break in. And they're busting through our gates, they're breaking into our garage, they've torn down our garage doors, we've installed cameras, they've stolen the cameras. So we're not even, at this point, we're kind of don't even want to fix anything because they continue to tear it up. So I'm asking that we get a little bit more support and communication with LRPD. I do want to thank Chief Dyer and Major Hinesley. They did come out last Friday, toured the facility with us. We showed them the issues that we are having, and they have assigned a directed patrol. However, they can't come in the facility at night because we lock our gates. well, we don't want to open the gates because it just gives them more access to take things and steal from us. But they are doing a better job at the daily patrol and when we lock our gates around 10 o'clock at night. So I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know what I was doing, and if there was any support or advice you could give us. We're still in the infancy stages of building our business and trying to help the citizens of Little Rock, because we all know that mental health and homelessness and substance abuse is a big problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just real briefly, Director Miller, and he and I have talked about when boundaries change based on the 2020 census data, there would be programming and issues that used to be part of Ward 2. That's now Ward 1. That's always been Ward 1, where she's talking about what I think the services she's talking about providing. And since public safety has repeatedly been deemed as our #1 priority, and I think that the population that she's targeting has always been a population, as you know from your work with me and many others, for a high priority in terms of making sure we provide this transition back to society through reentry, through housing, through treatment, through supportive services. So, Director Miller, if you don't mind, I'm going to meet with her before she leaves here, sir, and get her information and try to contact her and follow up.
Mayor.
Director Miller.
Yeah, Ms. Pavey and I have talked several times, and I'm a big supporter of hers. She knows I'm a supporter of hers. I think one of the reasons that the chief and Major and Chief Dyer are out there is because we visited about this. So I would encourage all board members to visit with Ms. Pavian. I'm glad she's here. I encouraged her to come doing citizen communications and share with us and the community at large about what's going on there. I'm a big supporter of what she's doing. So I would encourage not only you, Director Richardson, but all members of the board to visit with her and see what's going on. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Director Miller. And I think, for the most part, I think she's doing this out of her own pocket. She's not doing this with any grants from the city, the state, the county, or the feds, or any foundation. So she sees a need, and she's willing to put her money where her heart is, and that's helping us readjust people back into the community. And for the most part, if you look at the people who commit our crimes, and if you do a statistical breakdown, you find out that this target population that she's targeting primarily are ones who are responsible for most, if not all, of the crime that we're seeing in our community in that category. So thank you, Director Miller. And I too suggest and encourage all of us to visit with her and visit her facility. So
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
I'm a big supporter. I'm a big supporter of Ms. Pavian, and she knows it.
Director Warwick.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo the other directors in regards to Kasha's work that she's doing there. She told me she was going to do this facility, and I'm going, oh my goodness, that is such a challenge to make a difference. But she is driven. She's kind of like a bulldozer. You know, you either need to get with her or get out of her way, because when she sets her mind to do something, she's going to get it done. So I hope that we can find a way to be supportive. I'm very sorry that she's having issues with the crime situation. I did not hear about that. So hopefully with the directed patrol and a little bit of additional attention, then some of that will go away. So thank you, Kasha, for coming here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Esther Watkins.
Hello, I'm Esther Watkins, and I am a tenant. Can y'all hear me? Oh, okay. My name is Esther Watkins. I'm a tenant at Fair Oaks Apartments. I have been having safety and health violations go on for 2 years now. I have 94 images and 10 videos in evidence, and evidence against them deleting maintenance work orders. There's also safety issues outside of the buildings, plumbing issues, fecal matter coming up into other residents' apartments. I'm mainly doing this for the kids, you know. There's plenty of children out there and people out there with health problems, and they don't seem to care. And they've been lying to code enforcement, saying that they've fixed everything in my apartment. And I have many, many pictures of evidence of when it started in June 2022, and new pictures to show that, there's still an issue in my apartment. I was electrocuted in June of 2022 as well with my hot water heater, and it took the ambulance coming out there and me being on oxygen for 2 hours before they addressed the issue. The playgrounds are not safe. The gates are not safe. There's exposed wires and metal with that from when it got shot up. They only have one active camera on the premises, so people are getting broken into, and there's drugs in and out of the apartment complex. It's baffling the amount of issues that people are having, and they do not care. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Ms. Joyce Means.
Good evening. It is not a person's responsibility to feel comfortable with your dog. Your dog is your responsibility. Good evening to the Honorable Mayor Frank Scott and city directors and board members. My name is Joyce Means. On behalf of Arkansas Community Organizations, thank you for inviting us here tonight. We have an ongoing issue. It's ongoing. It's been a problem for a while and still ongoing in Little Rock. And that is a loose dog crisis. Our request is that we're requesting more animal control officers because they are understaffed, and even if they have to go by ways of getting a temp service to help staff that issue. And also, after surveying several wards, I have numbers that I can provide you with. Ward 1 has a lot of calls. Ward 1 is 600 calls. There's the Ward 2, where there's 700 calls. And Ward number 7, there's 500. So what we're here to ask, if you all would work with us and get better staffing for the animal control officers, and we can somehow work together to get this very serious issue taken care of, because it's getting out of control. And thanks for inviting us here again, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much, Ms. Means. Ms. Wilma Young Bruce.
Good evening. My name is Wilma Young Bruce. Today, I'm here as a member of the ACO, Arkansas Communities Organization, and our main concern, last year, there was roughly 2,600 calls to Little Rock reporting loose and aggressive dogs. Over 1,300 or more, and half of those calls came from people from Southwest Little Rock area, from Ward 2 and 7 to be exact. People are afraid to walk in the neighborhoods. Kids are running from the school bus. Elders are carrying sticks and tasers just to check their mails. My next door neighbors has repeatedly disobeyed the leash law, letting his dogs out while I'm out in the yard raking the leaves, despite being visited by animal control services multiple times, which I actually got to know Bernard Bracely, the animal control assistant, because he came to my home so many times. Animal service need more officers. Right now, they cannot control because of their lack of officers, are busy responding to other calls every day. Many people, especially Spanish speakers, are not aware of the leash laws, which carry a lot of pet bulls in the southwest area, dropped off. We need to send, our goal is we need to send mailers to every southwest home explaining the leash law in English and in Spanish. The fine, especially letting the dogs loose the fine for repeatedly letting the dogs loose is too low. Right now, you only pay $100 when the dogs get out the third time. That should be raised to $300 in order to crack down on repeat offenders. We hope that you take our action seriously to solve the problem as soon as possible, and that the people can walk the neighborhood again worry-free of dog attacking and stray dogs. Safety should be all of our main concerns and our priorities when it comes to loose dogs. Thank you, and I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you so much. We do appreciate you. Ms. Norma Huffman, sorry.
I actually need talking bullets this time. So I am here, of course, speaking about the same thing, the housing, and a couple of other things as well. But last meeting that I was at, you guys had said that you guys were going to put information on the website for the renters about being able to figure out what their options are, what their rights are about the housing, and with the owners of these complexes, making sure that they have their information up to date on accepting housing, on accepting Section 8. Haven't heard anything since. There is one complex that me and several other ACO members have actually went out to speak to, Summit Living Apartments. They said that they would help people from Big Country get in. All they had to do was fill out the application, and they would accept any assistance from the city to get those residents in. But now they're being very selective. So if there's anything you guys can do to help these tenants get out of Big Country, even get out of all these other complexes, it'd be very grateful. One other thing about the loose dogs, I'm at Terra Vista Apartments. I like it there. Me and my son, we feel very safe there. But there is a loose dog issue at Terra Vista Apartments. So if you guys can coordinate with the dog catchers on that, my apartment is 1402. You're more than willing to come over. They're more than willing to come over, and I'll talk to them about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Huffman. Mr. William Gerard.
Good evening. My name is William Gerard. I'm here today to talk about the loose dogs in Southwest Little Rock. Many people do not know about the leash law in Little Rock, Arkansas. Especially Spanish people. We need signs, permanent signs in our neighborhoods in Spanish and in English, and a number on the signs where they can call to report loose dogs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gerard. Do appreciate you. Madam Clerk, if you would please read the group items.
Mayor, before we move on to that, can I address that real briefly? Because Tracy Roark at the last minute, and I met with many of the people who just spoke about this issue, and Tracy is proactively working on radio spots, working on signage in both English and Spanish, and we're looking at ways of trying to increase from a proactive standpoint, our approach to this issue. One thing I will say is there are 2 vacancies. He's looking for 2 people. And all they have to do, if I remember correctly, pass the drug test. So we may look at our reentry program, Mayor, and pull 2 people out of there. They have openings for 2 positions in that department that's much needed. They're understaffed, woefully understaffed, but there are 2 positions that are available right now, and we talked about that a lot that night, and Tracy and his staff, excuse me, at the last minute gracefully met with the people who spoke here, and I think they heard them clearly, and I think there were some ideas that Tracy had in mind while he and I were riding to the meeting that dovetails what you've heard from them in terms of educating and informing people of the lease laws so we can address this from a comprehensive united standpoint, united framework, rather than us doing it to them and them doing it to us. We're doing it together. So I think that we left that meeting that night with a sense of community and a sense of working, all of us working from the same plate and eating out the same table. But Tracy and his staff have been looking at it. They have heard you guys, and I think you guys felt that night. But we do have 2 openings if someone is looking for employment right now in animal services to help us with this. And if I remember correctly, Tracy said all they had to do is just pass a drug test, so they could be part of our reentry program. They could be ex-felons. So it may be a way of digging into our reentry program, Mayor, and finding somebody to fill those positions because they are vacant.
Thank you, Director Richardson. Director Wyatt?
Mayor, I have some questions on the grouped items 7, 8, 9, and 10 regarding franchise fees. So at some point in time, after 3rd reading or before 3rd reading, or before we vote on the 3rd reading.
You want to go ahead and ask them now?
Okay, I can. Most of the time, through the years past that I've been on the board, we have these franchise agreements that come before us, and we pass them. We don't ask any questions. You know, it's usually the same amount. We move forward. I want to ask some questions about franchise agreements today because I don't understand how franchise fees agreements are tied to placing utilities in right-of-way, boring under streets, and those kinds of things. And so what I'd like to know is when we pass these franchise agreements with these utilities, did we have a scope of work, like for instance, where they're supposed to place their utilities in the right-of-way, how far from the curb, how deep?
If
Do we
that's
have anything that states if we bore under a road, how deep it's supposed to be per utility? Or is this strictly an agreement to charge utility fees or franchise?
strictly agreement to charge utility fees where the city receives it back.
Okay.
Well,
So,
it's a rental of the right-of-way, and we can set terms and conditions. And we can also impose a fee. The statute allows it to be passed through. But it's not just we collect a fee and they're not responsible. We can impose certain regulations, and we do. There are certain building regulations that are handled by Public Works. There are certain refill regulations, and I don't remember what the stuff is called.
But I think what Director Wyrick is speaking to, if I understand her question, because I think I know one of the issues, do we go to each individual project and provide a scope of work on that?
We
No,
go
that's
to
not
each
what I'm
project to
asking.
check them.
That's not what
before
I'm
we approve
asking.
it.
That's not what I'm asking at all. There was a number of years ago, I know those have been on the board as long as I have, when Henry Hodges was on the board, and we placed a fiber optic cable in West Markham from Hillcrest all the way to downtown. And every day there was a rut in the road, and every day that he drove down through there, he would come to us and he would fuss about it. So there was a document that was put together to try to manage utilities, and it dealt with the depth of utility, the distance from the curb in the right-of-way to utilities. It dealt with cutting streets. It dealt with boring streets, boring under the streets. So what I'm wanting to know is when we sign this agreement, do the utilities have a document that says, okay, if you're boring under the road, and you are a gas company, you go so many inches deep. Do we have something like that? Or is it, what do we follow in situations like that?
What I would say is before the board today is strictly the levying of those fees. Those intricacies that you're sharing with the city attorney can share what existing documents we have with other, with our other departments as it relates to that. That's not before us today.
I'm still wondering, how does that relate to the franchise fees? Because there's been some utilities that have said that they have done something wrong in the field because they didn't follow the franchise agreement. How does that relate to what we're talking about tonight?
Again, if you want to add on, but what we have today is about the funding. What I understand that you're asking about, we may have some other agreements within our current policy that we may need to review that, change that, but that's not before us today.
I'm hearing that some of the utilities do not have any concept that we do have a plan for placing items in the ground.
And if we can definitely show them the plan that we have, and if we don't have a plan with Public Works or with planning, this city board can bring that to fruition with the help of the city attorney.
Okay. So how do we get that started?
We'll get with Public Works and planning to figure out where the CenterPoint agreement is, and that may be the transition between CenterPoint to Summit. And let's just say, for whatever reason, that CenterPoint didn't share that with Summit. I don't know that to be true. We'll produce that, make certain that we'll get with Jamie and John, make certain they present that to Summit. But clearly bring it to you and the city board before they present that. But
One other question. Yeah, I think we ought to share it again. We've got a lot of new utilities that are going in right-of-way in the way of telecommunications type things, and so it might be a good situation to share it again publicly.
Jamie, if you'll get on top of that, you and John, thank you.
The last question I have, and then I'll shut up. Happy New Year, by the way.
Happy New Year to you.
The last question that I have is, which department is really in charge of the spacing, depth, placement of these utilities? Is it planning or is it Public Works?
It really depends on the particular issue, but mostly I would say planning, but it does depend on the particular issue.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Well, if we can bring that forward, I would appreciate that. We do have some conflicts in the field that need to be resolved, and it's holding up some development, and so I'd like to get that addressed just as soon as possible.
Sure, Jamie, if you will.
And I can give Jamie specifics.
Sure, and drum up the agreement between CenterPoint. And if there's anything that we need to bring the city attorney's office in, let's do that. And bring John along too for anything in his realm that may encompass those utilities.
I think when we made the plans, maybe John Honeywell was in place, and then we've done transitions between Public Works and planning. I wasn't clear who really had responsibility for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Madam Clerk, if you would, please read the group items.
An ordinance.
And before we do that, Jamie, let's try to get that done. If we can find it between now and Friday, that would be great. But let's try to, by next Tuesday, have something for Director Wyrick.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Madam,
Talking about what was done when they started using.
you can go, Madam Clerk.
They put them over there.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, amending the official zoning map of the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, and for the purposes, an ordinance to fix and impose the aggregate amount of fees and changes to be paid to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas by Energy Corporation and the method of payment thereof, to amend Section 9 of the Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 11,683 of December 6, 1965, and for the purposes, an ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 11,366 of March the 4th, 1963, as amended, to provide for levying a franchise fee to be paid by Summit Utilities, formerly known as Centerpoint Energy ARCLA, to provide for the payment thereof, and for the purposes, an ordinance to levy franchise fees to be paid by all carriers providing local access telephone services to provide for the payment thereof, and for the purposes, an ordinance to fix and impose the amount of fees and charges to be paid to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas by all companies that provide interstate or intrastate long-distance telecommunication services and all business incidental to or connected with the conducting of such telephone business in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to amend Section 3 of Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 15,706 of July 5th, 1989, and for the purposes, first reading.
To suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
There's a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it, second reading.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to fix and impose the aggregate amount of fees and charges to be paid to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas by Energy Corporation and the method of payment thereof, to amend Section 9 of Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 11,683. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 11,366 of March the 4th, 1963, as amended, to provide for levying a franchise fee to be paid by Summit Utilities to provide for the payment thereof, an ordinance to levy franchise fees to be paid by all carriers providing local access telephone services to provide for the payment thereof, an ordinance to fix and impose the amount of fees and charges to be paid to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas by all companies that provide interstate or intrastate long-distance telecommunication services and all business incidental to or connected with the conducting of such telephone business in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to amend Section 3 of Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 15,706. Second reading.
We suspend the rules and place on third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. Ayes have it, third reading.
An ordinance to reclassify property located in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas. An ordinance to fix and impose the aggregate amount of fees and charges to be paid to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas by Energy Corporation and the method of payment thereof, to amend Section 9 of Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 11,683. An ordinance to amend Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 11,366 as amended, to provide for levying a franchise fee to be paid by Summit Utilities to provide for the payment thereof. An ordinance to levy franchise fees to be paid by all carriers providing local access telephone services to provide for the payment thereof. An ordinance to fix and impose the amount of fees and charges to be paid to the city of Little Rock, Arkansas by all companies that provide interstate or intrastate long-distance telecommunication services and all business incidental to or connected with the conducting of such telephone business in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, to amend Section 3 of Little Rock, Arkansas ordinance number 15,706, third and final reading.
Members of the board, we've had three readings. All those in favor, please, any questions? Any questions? Any questions? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it. Members of the board, I made a mistake and didn't notice a card. Miss Brianna Narcisse.
Yes.
We'll start the clock.
Okay. My name Brianna Narcisse, and I'm calling, well, I'm not calling, but I'm here on the behalf of Fair Oaks Apartments as Esther. We both been going through this for years. Well, I've been out there for 3 years, and me and my 3-year-old child, we was in the apartment for a month with sewage water, like boo-boo water up and coming up out our tub and into the toilet and overflowing on our stuff and stuff. And I kept telling the office to help or whatever. They didn't want to help. I called code enforcement. I'm the one that got code enforcement out there for everyone. And code enforcement made them move me or whatever. But they still told me, like I asked them to give me boxes and stuff, the lady was like, tell code enforcement to help you. And I was like, I'm not the one to call. My auntie called. She's like, well, tell your auntie to help you. Like, they really don't care. And I'm up here on the behalf of all the kids out there and everybody that's suffering and going through this out there, that we need help for real. Like, we have no help in the apartments. They didn't got grants. They didn't got charity money. They didn't have tax credit money. And they didn't help us at all. They didn't fix nothing up in there. We got mold everywhere. Pipes connected. Our toilet and sink pipes from our kitchen are connected. And we got boo-boo coming up in the sinks and stuff. It's very crazy. But I'm here to speak on the behalf of that. Can y'all help us, please?
Thank you so much for sharing. Director Lewis.
That's very unfortunate, and I just wanted to make it aware that they are under new management now. I attended a meeting out there this afternoon where Alco management is going to start with construction in the next week or so to start every other building, making those improvements. So I am going to get personally involved just to.
I did a petition. I don't mean to cut you off. I did a petition, and I have pictures, and I also, like, they don't care. They just trying to get y'all out their face, but they don't care.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but I want your contact information just so we can stay in communication, but to have a sense of accountability, code enforcement, they were out there as well as this construction company and the new management team. So hopefully you all will start to see some improvements out there.
And it been people 9 years out there with 8 kids in 4-bedroom apartments flooding and the roof coming down. So they just trying to get people out their face so they don't have to hear it, but they're treating us bad behind closed doors when no one's big around. They're treating us a whole different way. So yeah, please help us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Director Lewis. Director Pierce.
Mr. Mayor, when John and whoever's going to look at what BJ was asking for, we have someplace, Tom, a regulation that if a utility comes in and does something to the street, the condition they're supposed to refurbish it to, and they don't do it. And I don't know who's supposed to be checking or how we do that, but one of my constant consternations is we spend a lot of money on the bond issues resurfacing streets, and then we have people that come in behind it and tear up the streets, and then they don't fix it back the way it was before. And so 2 things. One, who's supposed to be doing that? And secondly, as we move forward with improvement of streets, is there a way that we put out a notice to all the utilities that might need to go into the streets that we're getting ready to do it, so we don't go resurface the street and then 6 months later they come back and tear it up? It's one of the things that it just constantly we waste money. So as we're looking at what BJ wants, would you look at that too?
Yes, sir.
Mayor, can I speak on that?
Yes, ma'am.
I got my hand up. That was part of the reason that we came up with this plan of where utilities are supposed to go and how deep they're supposed to be. And where if there was a trench that's going to be dug, then they were supposed to put all the utilities in the same trench. The whole scope. But now I'm hearing nobody knows about the scope that was planned.
And when you brought that up, you're 100% right. We've been through this before.
We have.
And we have regulations on what they're supposed to do, who's supposed to be on top, who's in the middle, and who's below, utilities and how they're supposed to do it. They're supposed to put conduit in there so they don't have to redo it. All of those things we've addressed before. Isn't that right, Tom?
We did.
Yes. And we don't do it. And so if we're not going to do it, then let's just say to hell with it and don't do any of it, or let's go back and figure out how to regulate it. And what BJ's saying is right. And thank you for bringing it up.
Open up the plans and tell everybody what our original plans were. Do they need to be modified some? Do we need to revamp them? Do we just need to broadcast them for the utilities that are out there? And I know we've got a bunch of new, probably franchisees that are coming in for different types of telecommunications, and so it'd be good if those folks knew about it. It ought to be something different than just, okay, here's your franchise agreement and here's what it costs. there ought to be something else with it. There ought to be rules and regs and that kind of thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Peck?
I just want to thank you all both for bringing this up. You haven't been to North Rodney Parham lately? It's only about a mile and a half long. It's been a 3-year project because the utilities. It's been a nightmare, so I appreciate you bringing this up. Hopefully we can find a solution that will be helpful.
All right.
I do have one more thing, kind of off topic. We all got an email. Well, the first email was back on November the 4th, and then we got another one from a woman named Virginia Yateman. I don't know her, just this past Friday, about the litter problem. She actually gives some very good suggestions and makes some comments, but if you didn't read that, go back and take a look at it. And she copied Rex Nelson, all of us, and lots of other people in the city. Rex kind of weighed in about it as well, I mean, doesn't matter what ward it's in. I mean, there's just trash everywhere. It's just litter everywhere. It's not good for neighborhoods. It doesn't show any sense of civic pride. It's just bad for first impressions of our city. So if you haven't seen those emails, go back and take a look at them. And I don't have a solution, but I do think that we need to look at doing something about cleaning up the city. I know we've got a big cleanup day in March. I know lots of different schools and churches and organizations do this on their own various times throughout the year. But I would just like to task some department or somebody, and I'm happy to be helpful if I can, to really have a good PR campaign to clean up the city. It's just trashy. Go back and read the email. She makes some good points. That's all.
Thank you. Any other questions from members of the board? All right, Emily?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to just mention the professional services reports that I've sent, one on January 2nd and one on January 8th, and see if there were any issues, because they were timely. It'd be nice to move forward if that's okay. Thank you.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.